There he is. What's up, folks? We're here. We're live. Our countdown bug has seemed to be off for some reason, so we're going to start a little bit earlier than normal. Leroy is off in the background doing something weird. Hopefully, he doesn't do anything crazy. I don't know. Now he's back. What's up?
Uh, Nothing much.
Yeah, yeah.
The
Uh,
child escaped. So, what's up? What are you talking about?
escape like from a prison. What do you mean escaped?
Well, I mean, he thinks his room is a prison, but yeah, he escaped. So
Okay,
we had a prison break. So we had to get him.
okay,
He almost got in the
cool.
kitchen.
Oh, he
Got to make
almost
sure.
got in the kitchen.
So got to make sure they stay out of the kitchen.
Oh, sure. Okay, because that's where the most harm happens to them.
Well, that's where knives are.
Oh, all right, cool, fair enough. Um, my wife doesn't know how to use knives very well either.
Well, I mean, you should have married a child.
I don't know. I wouldn't call Wendy a child, but all right.
Well, I mean, if you don't know how to use knives at this age, what do you call it?
I mean, some people, it is what it is.
I mean, I'm just
Um,
saying. How's
yeah,
it feel saying my wife?
it was fun saying that on stream and whatnot to our audience as it slowly comes in. It was different, but it was fun.
Well,
Yeah.
um,
Folks, this is the We Trying channel, Nerded by Nature Productions. That's Leroy and Michael. And we're here for two weeks in a row. We'll see how long we can keep this up, continuing to do a weekly press play. Hopefully, we can. We'll see. But this topic we have is kind of interesting. It's timely. Nintendo just revealed a deeper dive direct presentation on the Switch 2 on Wednesday
mhm, yep.
that I think, and I can't talk for everybody, but I feel like what I gathered from people seem to think the system was great to okay and that it cost too much. And then Nintendo said, hold that for a second. It might be even more.
Nope. They didn't say anything. They
Yeah, they
just
did.
no. Hold on. So they just said we're going to reevaluate what's going on.
That means it's going to cost more.
I, Here's the thing. Let's start with what we know. Pre-orders were supposed to go on sale
US pre
April.
orders.
Hold on. Pre-orders supposed to go on sale April 8th and
No,
April
no, no.
9th.
No, no, no. UK pre orders are April 8th. US pre orders are April 9th.
That's what I just said.
Nope, you said April 8th.
Pre-orders, but you didn't let me finish. What I was trying to get to was we got the pre-order April 9th, but the other pre-orders, Japan and the UK, was April 8th. The rest of the world was April 8th. We were April 9th. That's what I was trying to get out. I feel like
Okay.
you're my wife. Let me finish what I'm trying to say.
I
Mm,
wanted you to be more impactful as you said it, sir.
I'm about to be unpackful right here.
There we
To the
go. That's
moon.
what we need to the moon. Yep. Go ahead.
um, so Nintendo had this, and I that was a very simple way to say Nintendo had one of their biggest weeks. This was supposed to be their big week. This was supposed to be their follow up to one of the best selling consoles of all time.
Hmm.
And it literally was derailed to the point one to the point where now it's up in the air. We don't know how much it's going to cost. You're right. There's a possibility it could go up. A
Here's the
very
thing. Sorry,
strong,
I don't want to cut you
a
off. Go ahead.
very strong possibility it could go up. So if you thought 450 was expensive,
Yeah.
um, go ahead.
And here's the thing I want to add to that. As of now, it seemed like it's only going to affect the US. It would be one thing if across the globe the prices were going to go up, but pretty sure the price in Europe is going to stay the same. The price in Japan is going to stay the same. Everywhere else is going to stay. Most likely, the only place that's going to see an increase is US. Because if it was everywhere, there's a way to spin it and be like, okay, everybody's getting screwed. But the fact that it's US seems to hurt even more.
Well, we have seen this before. We have seen price increases that have affected one region versus another region differently. Um, so, perfect example: when the PS5 price increase happened, and the Xbox, the last price increase for the latest generation Xbox went up. It did not raise here. It went up in other parts of the world, um, which that was during COVID times, the aftermath of COVID. We've seen this before where something costs differently in different places based on global markets. This is the first time that we have seen, that I believe we have seen, where there is going to be a penalty attached to being an American for our video games because of something our country, because again, you and I may not have voted for it. Some of these people out here on our chat may not have voted for it, but we as a country voted for this
Hmm.
because we voted for this person.
Hmm.
So as a country, we are literally penalizing ourselves, and this is the outcome of that decision. So before we get to the, go ahead,
I was
and
going to
then
say not only that, and I've seen different articles, but I thought the same thing too. Right? It seems the worst now for Nintendo because they're the first ones to really talk about the tariffs. It's not just going to be Nintendo; they're
oh
just the
no,
first ones to talk about it. So if you think it's only going to affect Nintendo, oh no, no, no,
no, no, no,
this
and
is going
but
to affect the video game industry for a while.
here's the thing, and I think what people are not realizing, and well, let me take it back. It's not that I don't think people are realizing. I think in our nerd bubble, we have used this space to escape the real world. We have this space has not been touched by real world factors in the market, and it's affected it's been affected a little bit, but not as much. Like during COVID, we saw global markets change, trade, uh, trading routes being affected because it was a global pandemic. That was different. That was something that was happening to the rest of the world. We have seen our movies delayed because certain things, but it's been a minor inconvenience. This, I think, is the first time we're going to see a price increase that is going to directly affect the nerd market, because a lot of the nerd market is tangible things,
Hmm.
physical things.
Hmm.
Yes, we have digital games. Yes, you have digital libraries, but consoles, comics, toys, tchotchkes, that physical representation of your nerddom, because part of nerddom is the merchandising aspect is going to be seen take a dramatic shift up in what we pay for, in what and how we pay for. Um, what let's come back to this part of it
Sure.
and start with the actual direct that actually happened. So the direct
Hmm.
was April the 2nd. Um, it was a little over an hour, correct?
Hour and 2 minutes.
Yeah. Um, and the first game was Mario Kart World, the
Hmm.
first open world Mario Kart game.
Hmm.
So let's start there. What did you think about the direct, and what did you think about Mario Kart?
The direct overall, I was kind of, I told you, and I'll tell everybody here, I am cautiously optimistic after seeing that direct. I wasn't blown away about the long term goals of it. I think Mario Kart World looks great. $80 is a big price to ask, but if any game Nintendo can charge, the one that is either their best selling game or one of their, I don't know if it's the best selling Nintendo game ever. I know it's one of the best selling games ever, but I don't know where that ranks in Nintendo. I think it sold over 70 million copies. So it's definitely quite popular. Mario Kart 8 has sold over 70 million copies. So
Mm.
if Mario Kart World, if you're going to do it, that's the one to raise the price on it. But it looks incredible. The idea of, I've seen a lot of people call it Mario Kart Horizon for like Forza Horizon, where you get to drive around to races and in an open world. I think that's great. If it's really going to let you keep the benefits of a Mario Kart game with 24 characters or 23 other players with you, 24, and you can find secrets in the world, I think it's going to be awesome. But my big thing overall, and we'll talk about it more, is I didn't see a lot of first party produced Nintendo games coming out for a launch or in
Mhm.
the launch window. We saw Mario Kart and we saw Donkey Kong Bonanza. Not a lot.
True. Okay. So as I pour my drink,
Hmm.
there we go. So as you watched this direct, you
Hmm.
said you liked it, but you weren't blown away. Um, as a Nintendo fan,
Hmm.
is this was this enough for you to say, yeah, I'm buying this before the breaking news happened on Friday?
Hmm.
Was it? Were you looking at um, this direct and you were like, okay, I'm in
I
before you
was
even heard
before. Okay,
before
I
you heard
got
the
you.
450, before you heard the $80 bit, just based on the direct, what was your thinking on buying this?
Uh,
Upgrading.
yeah, for me it was just kind of okay. This is all right. I wasn't blown away. I think before the direct, I was like, oh man, they're going to show all kinds of great stuff. We're going to have
Really?
so much more than Mario Kart World. Because I was like, Nintendo's been cooking for so long. Where's my new Mario game? And we still
Okay.
don't know. And this is a big thing Nintendo does, which it, right or wrong, a lot of times their first party games, you may not necessarily know who's making the game. Sometimes until the game comes out and you see the logo screen of which internal company made it. I've kind of been looking on the internet, but I haven't seen. Chad, if you let me know, I don't think we know which internal Nintendo studio is making Donkey Kong Bonanza, like the primary studio. I don't
Hmm.
know if it's the Mario Odyssey team or a different team. I would like to think it's a different team, and that Mario Odyssey team is working on a Mario Odyssey 2 because that's what everybody wants. Um, uh, or that's what I think that's what a majority of people want is a Mario Odyssey 2. But if they're working on this, okay, that gives me a little more hope. But I don't know. It for me, it's just I wanted to see more first party produced stuff specifically for Switch 2. We saw a lot of games that are coming to Switch that will get an upres version or an enhanced version that you have to pay for.
Hmm.
But I wanted to see Switch 2 from the ground up games and what they look like made by Nintendo. Didn't see a lot of that. Saw a lot of third party support, saw a lot of external tangibles that are nice, but not the big thing of the thing we always talk about is you pay that Nintendo tax because Nintendo's going to give you a quality product. They're going to give you a unique product. People know Nintendo, like, oh, I'm getting something that's different. We didn't necessarily see that in this direct.
Okay.
I don't think.
Um, the reason why I asked that is because I wanted your initial thoughts before, and we probably should have produced this better and talked about this, but this is literally off the dome. And I'm gonna be honest with you. Oh, I'll get to that in a second. I'll put a pin in that. So those are your initial thoughts.
Hmm.
Nintendo was very. I found it very interesting because again, I found all of this out backwards. So I knew about the price before I watched the direct.
Hmm.
You watched the direct, then found out about the price. So take me through that. You get the price, and you already kind of like, oh, it's okay.
The
It
price,
wasn't infinite, and then you get the price.
yeah, the price didn't necessarily be like, oh, I'm definitely just seeing the direct. I'm like, okay, this is fine. 450 isn't crazy. I think a lot of people talked about 399 would be the sweet spot,
Hmm.
but for 450's $50 more. It's not that big of a jump. Um, like slight behind the scenes for people who may or may not know, the software that we use to stream on a somewhat regular basis is Restream. That costs us $500 a year, more or less.
Hmm.
I bring that up because our license is coming up soon.
Hmm.
So in my mind, I have to do the real math of, hey, am I going to renew us for another year of Restream, or am I going to use that money to get
A
a
switch.
Switch 2?
Yeah.
I didn't. That didn't occur to me until they brought up the 450. It's like, oh, huh, interesting.
Yeah.
And again, that first world problems. It's not the biggest thing in the world, but it's just Nintendo's wants you to pay big boy money for this console, which is definitely better technically in every way than a Switch One. It really is, based on all the specs and everything. The fact that it's going to be docked, if it actually works, 4K 60 frames per second, or
Mhm.
no, docked 1080p 120 frames per second for some games, but in handheld mode you could do no, sorry, docked either 4K 60 or 1080p 120. That's what it was, but it's docked. I think that's awesome if they can do that with the AI and the DLSS sampling on
Upscaling,
the
because
chip.
this will
Yeah.
be the first. This will be the first console at launch with AI upscaling. Um, I would say major console. But with that being said, you hear the 450, you hear the
Mhm.
$80, and so I do like IGN, even though their reviews on games and movies at times can be a little hit or miss, but that's because it's not it's just not one person. It's not a unified voice. So this person may rate something, and anyway, I was watching IGN before the Switch 2 was announced, and I was
Mhm.
watching some people talk about it, and they were very much like, this is not going to be more than 450. They were like 450. Ugh. Nintendo usually comes in cheaper because of the quality. They're trying to make a profit, and their specs are usually lower than your PlayStation and your Microsoft consoles, and
Mhm.
they're not on par with your PCs. So the parts are cheaper, so they can sell their they can sell their hardware at a cheaper price. But then when this came out, this announcement, I again a lot of people at IGN. There was one guy who was like 499, and he came back and he said I was trolling, and he was like, yeah, but he thought um, the price 399 was pretty much what it was going to be, because that's what the last one was, and we'd heard rumors that this was not going to be an OLED screen.
Mhm.
I would like to hear from those people now. I have not. Um, but 450 is to me a higher is a steep price. It's not an unreasonable price, but it is steep considering if you look at your entry level Steam Deck, which allows you to do much more, is $400. Now, IGN did do a comparison, and one of the guys, and he brought up some very good points. I'm trying to remember what his name is, and I do like him. He brought up some good points in saying you're not comparing it to the original Steam Deck when it was launched. What you're going to compare it to is what is the Steam 2 when it launches.
Mhm.
And that's a very good comparison to what the Steam 2 will be when they finally release that. Will that be closer to $600-700? Because it is going to be a more beefed up system, because you need to compare the Switch 1 with Steam Deck 1 and
Mhm.
those handhelds. You cannot compare the Switch 2, and that's great to say. What I will say is families all across America, because with the tariffs and with everything that's going on, families are going to look at that 450 price, if it's 450, who already have a Switch at home or have not bought a Switch, and say, we got Switch at home. It's like when you're going to McDonald's, we got when your mom's like, we got McDonald's at home. Families are going to be making that same decision that you're going to make, because you're not comparing it to what may come out in the future. This console may be released by this major company. You're going to look at the landscape and say, is there enough with the Switch 2 that makes me upgrade from this other Switch? And let's not forget that Switch price is going to drop. Those Switches that
You
are
think
in,
you think the Switch One price is going to drop?
I thought I think that Switch 1 price may drop to get rid of that inventory.
Hmm.
I I I'm willing to be wrong because of the tariffs, and I could be wrong. But I honestly thought the price when that Switch 2 dropped, I honestly expected Switch 1 prices to drop probably 25 or $50.
Ooh,
I
interesting.
I did see that, because it's almost like this generational shift. You want people to buy that Switch too, but you still got all this inventory you've got to get rid of. And I did see that coming, but I'm gonna be honest with you now, with everything that's happening, that Switch 2 just became a harder sell. Mm.
Hmm. I think
Um,
it's interesting that they're in a different boat from Switch to Switch 2 than they were from Wii to Wii U.
mhm.
If you go back when you think about Wii, that original Wii was a success. They tried to I don't know what their thinking was in calling it the Wii U. I think the idea was U is it's inclusive, it's everybody, it's everything or whatever. I think it got a little too
Cute.
tricky for some people, too cute, and like Wii U is that an expansion or whatever. I think with putting the two on it and the people, even families who aren't in the video game space like we are, they realize, oh, two means this is a new system. I like that better than like a PlayStation 2, a PlayStation 3.
Yeah.
They understand that this is, I think putting the two on it
Michael froze. Let's see if he
in the
comes
mind's
back.
eye,
You froze.
huh? Oh,
Yep.
well, see,
You
maybe
said
we shouldn't use Restream anymore because Restream sucks. Great. Now I got the
you.
money to buy my Switch 2.
So you said the two in it, and then it just stopped. So finish your thought.
I was saying having the two definitely makes it to families who aren't in the game space like we are realize, oh, this is something, this is an upgraded system. So
Mhm.
I think
Yep, he froze again. Well, guys, until Michael comes back, uh, Ken from Chicago asked me what my drink of choice was tonight. It is a snake bite, something my wife taught me when we were younger and single going out. It is a beer mixed with a cider, which makes the beer sweeter. She said it was called a snake bite. Um, I am doing a crisp apple cider with since we don't have sponsorships by either of these. Um, I am going with a Mexican beer company and an American cider brand. Um, so yeah, that is my drink of choice. Until Michael comes back, I'd like to say um, I personally um, am not a Nintendo fan. If you're new to the channel, I am not somebody who's like I have to have everything that is Nintendo. Um, I do have a Nintendo, whatever the classic console is, and we have an old. Uh, was it? What's that? Ah, Michael's back.
I mean maybe I don't know.
Yeah.
It's acting weird. I hope.
Is it Restream or your internet?
I don't know. I mean I'm able to get on other websites on my
Okay.
internet.
Okay. Kay, I
Uh,
do drink Hefeweizen quite often. But yeah, I was just talking about how I am not a big Nintendo fan. I'm okay, but I wasn't sold on the Switch. I do like it, um, but I wanted to put. I wanted you to finish your thought, but I also wanted to highlight Dune Spice's comment of I got like 8 Switch games I have never opened or maybe played about an hour. Hard decision to make on the new one, and that is the sentiment that I am seeing across the internet.
mhm.
That this new Switch 2 purchase is going to be a hard sell with, and this is before the tariffs. This is before the possible price increase. 450 for this Switch 2 was going to be a hard sell, in my opinion. $80 for, even though I understand the Mario game probably is going to be great. $80 for a video game was going to be a hard sell. And I think Nintendo being the first ones, they're taking a lot of heat, but
They're the
they're not going to be the only one.
yeah, they're the canary in the coal mine for sure. Um, the you know you almost get penalized a little bit for being the first ones to do this. Like you said, they're not going to be the only ones.
No.
There's been rumors of them wanting to jack up the price, and I say jack up the price, but reasonably, games have been consistently cheaper with inflation compared to other stuff for the longest time. So it made sense that games were going to go up. We just didn't want them to go up in price. Nintendo said, "Hey, we'll finally take that bullet."
W-
I'm curious, what is a because Donkey Konga is $70, or not Donkey Konga, Donkey Kong Bonanza is $70, I believe.
mhm.
So is that going to be the standard price for games, and like a super premium game is going to be 80? I kind of want to get more prices on other games made by Nintendo to see what their prices are, because some other games that are coming to Switch already, like I think Street Fighter 6 coming to Switch 2 is $60 or whatever. So a lot of those third party games that have already been out, they're $60, I believe.
Well, here's another thing too, and it's something that somebody on IGN was talking about. Nintendo has been a higher price as far as like for certain things. So like when I think somebody was talking about the original PS2 when it came out, and the games for the PS, was it the PS1 or PS2? I'm trying to remember what this gentleman was saying. He was like, "Here's Nintendo over here with $50 games, man. Here's Sony with $30 games," and he's like, "Oh, I'm just going to buy this system because the games are cheaper," and that is going to be part of the conversation going forward. When you look at, and I also don't want to like beat Nintendo down as if they're just trying to steal money from everybody. We had 20 years where games did not jump with that price increase. If you remember, from PS3 to PS4, there wasn't a huge price increase. There wasn't that incremental price increase. Games stayed pretty much the same from the 360 era to the PS4 era. And it wasn't until PS5 we got that price increase, and it was a little bit of sticker shock. The PS3, the PS4, Xbox 3, and the 360, and the Xbox One, those game prices only hopped incremental. It was just recently we saw these prices jump. You still there? Oh, he's frozen again. Um, uh, okay, they've already done a price increase. We've already seen a price increase with Xbox and PlayStation. Um, the question is, will we see another price increase with these larger games? And the big question is GTA. Is GTA going to be the first 80 to $100 game? Because that game is supposed to be massive. They've been working on it for, I want to say, almost a decade. Um, will that game be the one that breaks the bank, and does that set the market so that everything else that comes after that pretty much hovers around that price? um, but I want to get to the actual direct. How many people have actually seen it? I'd like to know from you all, but I watched it and I was impressed. Nintendo put on a very good show, but it wasn't a show that I was like, oh, I have to have this. It was a show that said, oh, here are the games. There was only a handful of games that I was like, okay, I have to have these games. Like there was only a handful of games that I was like, oh, I'd play that. Oh, I want that. You're back. Welcome.
I guess, man. I don't know what's going on.
Mm,
Everything else seems to be working internet wise. So I don't know if it's my computer or what.
mm. So yeah, here's my question. You talked about. Uh, do you remember what your thought was before the shenanigans started?
Which one? I don't know.
Because
I don't even know the last thing I don't know. I feel like the last thing I talked about was just Nintendo's in a different boat from Switch to Switch 2 compared to Wii to Wii U.
but here's
Yeah.
but go ahead, because I think also the Wii U and the Switch 2 are coming at it from two totally different. The Switch 2 is not a dramatic shift from what the Wii was, if that makes sense. Like the Wii and then the Wii U. The Wii U was a dramatic shift from what the Wii was. The Switch to the Switch 2 is not a dramatic shift. It's just improving upon what we already had, if that makes sense. Um, there is a fear that you're trying to improve upon one of the best selling consoles of all time, though.
Yeah. I mean, I think Nintendo's gonna be fine overall. Like if I'm looking crystal ball down the line, for the most part, most Nintendo systems are successes. Even the GameCube, it didn't sell as much as it wanted, but the GameCube, it was profitable for them. I feel like the only two big flops might have been the Virtual Boy and the Wii U.
Yeah.
I think every other system, it may not have sell as great as everything else, but they made profit on it. They were
Now,
fine.
now here's the thing. With that being said, what did you think about the inclusion of GameCube classic games when you heard that you saw that logo during the direct? What was that
I think
like?
that's cool. I think that's very cool. And I've seen a couple of deep dive like developer videos on the Nintendo Treehouse, going in showing some of the games, and they look great. They look up res and high scale and everything. Seeing Wind Waker like that was great. Seeing Soul Calibur 2 was great. People have wanted to play Soul Calibur 2 on modern consoles, specifically the GameCube version on modern consoles, because that was the only version that had a link in it. Because when they made Soul Calibur 2, they had Heihachi on PlayStation and Spawn on Xbox. Those guest characters were okay. People wanted Link, so the fact that you have Link back is great. They've added widescreen support, so I think it's going to be a if they release those games like they have for the Nintendo, the Super Nintendo, even Sega, it's going to be fine. I think there's a lot of bonuses and positives for Nintendo Switch 2. It's just this direct didn't hit me like I wanted to, and I'm wondering maybe there will be another direct that shows, oh, this is what Nintendo's working on. This is the big stuff we're working.
So, it's funny you mentioned that because
Hey, look
going
at Dune Spice.
yeah,
That
um,
latest comment. I can't access the chat log anymore, but if you can, that Dune Spice one is good because that was the same person who said they bought the 8 games, haven't opened
yeah,
them,
damn,
but
I'm
they're
so
still
loyal to
talking about.
Nintendo. I got to do it no matter what. And with Metro Prime 4 pushed me over there to buy a Switch 2. So that's an interesting point. That this individual saying, I'm doing it. There was a lot that was announced to me, maybe push like this person right here. To me, the Switch 2 feels like what the Switch 1 should have been, if that makes sense. So like they're talking about the games with the upgraded, kind of like with Days Gone coming out with the PS5 version, you can upgrade that game for $10. It seems like Nintendo has said that's a good idea. We're going to do it for our first party titles. So the two Zelda games, you can upgrade and play those on Switch 2 at a better frame rate, better resolution, but
HDR, all the bells and whistles.
all the R's.
Hmm.
But again, there was nothing first party that made me say, "Oh, I have to have a Switch 2." I
Hmm.
did hear Animal Crossing 2. I did see Silk Song, but Hades 2 is already out.
Hmm.
Um, now there are a couple of games that caught me off guard that I was like, the From Software I thought was pretty interesting because I know for a From Software game to only be on the Switch 2, I thought that was pretty amazing. I thought that was a pretty good get. Um, and I also thought it looked damn good. Like it didn't look, and this is the one thing that I will say about the Switch 2 Direct. Nothing looked last gen. That was one of the biggest problems that people had with the Switch. One of the complaints were the graphics were not up to par with every other console, and Nintendo found a way around it through gameplay and with amazing art direction. But again, even the games that Nintendo made for it sometimes staggered, didn't play as well. So to see a lot of these games that you're already playing, that you already have access to on the Switch 2 was good, but there wasn't really a lot besides that. What is it, Demon Mech? Like I really enjoyed. looking at that. But a
Mhm.
lot of the games that were announced were games we're going to see on other consoles.
Mhm.
And for it again, for it to be 450, why am I paying 450? And that's what I did not get from a lot of people, from IGN and from all these different outlets. That was the one thing that to me that was missing. Why am I paying 450 and why am I paying $80 for a Mario game? What is bringing me over for things that I felt like, and again, I know Nintendo doesn't do that, but I didn't hear a lot of extra things that made me say I have to have this. I felt a lot of extra things that improved upon that made the original Switch better. To me,
Yeah.
the Switch 2 announcement to me is what the OLED Switch should have been.
Yeah, sure.
And
It's
that's how
almost like they combined the OLED with these new things in there. I mean, if you go back to that rumor mill of when the Switch 2 may or may not have been finalized, and they were talking about, at least a year, maybe a year and a half ago, the Switch 2 was pretty much done. Um, there was talks that it was going to come out. So you wonder if they had never released that OLED version and just decided to do the Switch 2, what that would have done, because so many rumor mills about they have a big stock of Switch 2 because it's been done for so long. Um, I think, going back to my thing about being cautiously optimistic, give me another direct, for another Nintendo Direct. I think this Nintendo Direct, while the dedicated fan base is really watching it, I
Mhm.
think this might have been geared more towards the people who aren't dedicated. I
Really
think this might be
explain.
I think this might be geared more towards the casual people who are like, "Oh, you remember Switch? Well, now there's a better Switch. It is more expensive, but now you're going to be able to play, all those cool games that your friends are playing on PS5 and Xbox. You only got one console. You can
Mhm.
play them on the Switch. They may not look as good, but they'll run competently. They're not going to run like dog shit. You can play it on the go.
Okay.
There are so many different third-party options. I mean, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth Integrate is coming to Switch too. It still hasn't been announced for Xbox yet. That's crazy. Um,
Yeah.
we know it's coming there, Xbox. Well, I assume it's coming to Xbox. I think it's weird that it's not, that it's on PC and everything. I don't know what the exclusivity deal was, but we know it's coming to Switch too. A lot of big names. The Cyberpunk 2077. Grant, I wonder how that runs on a Switch too. I don't know. We'll see.
But see, and so you bring that, and that was my point. I can already play Cyberpunk on my console. We already know Microsoft is coming out with a handheld soon. It may be a year or two down the road, but we know it's coming, and we know if it's coming, it's going to play these games.
Mhm.
And I guess my question is, why would I buy a Switch 2? Like, it's like some of the announcements outside of whatever the FromSoft Blood game was were games that we already had
Mhm.
that already play well on other systems. And there was nothing that was unique to Nintendo outside of Metroid, Mario, and Donkey Kong that I have to
Well,
buy.
oh, you talking about you specifically?
Not just me specifically, like Hades 2. I can already play Hades 2 on the Switch.
Yeah. No, I mean,
So,
I think they probably showed maybe 10 games that were you could only play on the Switch. My issue was 8 of those games were going to be on the Switch 1.
and that's my point. Like yes, you showed me an upgraded Tears of the Kingdom, or whatever the, is it Tears of the Kingdom? Did I say it right?
That's one of them, yeah.
So the rest of the games, and again, these games look great, but we have not heard specs of how this system is actually going to run. And and here's another thing: is it Cyberpunk, or is it is Phantom Liberty going to be part of this? Like, I
I believe so because the video they showed Idris, and he's
okay.
only in the DLC.
And so like it just seemed to me that this system, and again, I liked it. I've thought about purchasing it. This 450 kind of puts me off a little bit. Um, but it really wasn't that, oh, I have to have this type of thing.
Hmm.
And that's the thing that I thought I was going to get wowed. Now let's come back. to, because again, you mentioned here are the games that you're already playing, that your friends are playing. Now let's go that other side, that price point and tariffs.
Hmm.
This is where I'm like, Nintendo's not the only company that is going to be dealing with this. The problem is a lot of other people have lead time to deal with this or not deal with this, if that makes sense. In other words, other companies have time to wait this out. We don't know if the tariffs are going to be in place in 2 months. We don't know if the tariffs are going to be in place in 6 months. We know these systems and these games that other companies have are a little further out, so they have time to like release to do press releases to build you up to this. Nintendo
Hmm.
had their direct Wednesday, and then they got screwed over because some tariffs came out Friday, and people already were upset about the sticker shock of $80 for a game and 450 for a console. And then
Hmm.
this came out, and if and here's a breakdown. So Nintendo is based in Japan, but they have moved a lot of their um, manufacturing out of China to Vietnam. And this was something that they started doing in the first Trump administration. Right now, the Trump tariffs that were hit, here are the 15 here there are 15 countries that were hit. Here are three of them that is directly affected by the Trump tariffs. China, a 34% tariff. That's on top of the other tariffs that they already had.
Hmm.
Vietnam got hit with a 46% tariff. Now, a lot of companies have moved their manufacturing to Vietnam to avoid the China tariffs that were already in place from the first Trump administration that Joe Biden and his administration kept. Vietnam was hit with a 46% Trump tariff. That's where Nintendo does a lot of manufacturing. Nike does a lot of shoe manufacturers are there. Um,
Yeah.
so we don't know what that price point is going to be because they moved the pre-order date, but that June 5th date has not moved. And
Yeah.
so my question is, are they going to reevaluate and say, you know what? We're going to release this in October or later on in the summer because of these price points because we don't know and make up some excuse. Because here's the other thing. Nintendo wasn't forthcoming with a Switch 2. They never I don't want to say they never wanted to release it, but they were almost bullied into making a Switch 2 and releasing the Switch 2. If you look at how this has gone, they had to switch to, like you just said earlier, there were rumors and reports that a Switch 2 was already made a year ago. They announced last year that they were going to release details of it coming out this year. So it wasn't like they were all excited about improving upon a system that's one of the best selling systems of all time. And I think it goes back to that whole Wii U incident that they had to deal with, a little fear of don't fuck up a good time. So I'm interested to see how they handle this and subsequently how other companies handle this.
Yeah. I don't think I'm 99% certain the Switch 2 is going to come out for a global release on June 5th. I don't see that date moving because there's so much other inventory that they can make that the system itself is out. I think that it's definitely going to come out then. I am curious when the pre-order goes live. I'm curious more about what does this do for scalping and if you're going to somehow be able to jailbreak other countries' Switch 2s. Because I don't know if you saw before the tariff announcement, the Japanese price for like the Japanese only language model Switch 2 is cheaper. Maybe it's $380 or something. It's significantly cheaper than the 450. I think the UK model might be right at 450. I want to know, is it going to, are people going to somehow pre-order a UK Switch 2 and then import it over here and play games if it's region if it's not region locked?
Here's a question. But if you do that, what's the shipping for that? And there's going to be a lot of people trying to do that. And I am understand when I say this, I am not for this, but you don't drop a tariff, which is a tax, without thinking about how people are going to get around that.
Hmm.
And so I say that to say you can try that if you want to. My question is, are a lot of people just going to bite the bullet and say, I'm not going to do that? But then for those people who are trying to, how easy is that going to be? Because I I am not, how do I say this? I am not trying to make these people smarter than what they are, because personally I disagree with the tariffs in general, but I don't see them being dumb enough to levy a tariff and then allowing a back door for people to start black marketing all the goods and services,
Sure,
avoiding the actual thing that they put in place.
sure.
I just cannot fathom them being that dense of not having those things in place. So because again, there's still a tariff on where you would buy that switch from. There is a tariff on other places. So it's not as if you just because you bought it the UK version, it's not going to be cheaper. There's still a tariff over there. Does that make sense?
Wait, tariff for who?
There's still a tariff on the UK. There's still a tariff on the EU. So you buying an EU or a UK version, there's still a tariff there. There's still a tariff on Canada. So
Yeah,
you
but that tariff is maybe not as high as buying directly. Like if you buy it at the EU price,
true.
you got to figure out what the cost of sense of it is. Is it
Hmm.
cheaper to get a EU version and then ship it? Probably not. Probably it's more expensive. But I think some people will. I think people will find workarounds.
And that's, I guess that's
People will
my
find
point.
ways to break and skirt the law.
Yeah. Oh, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, I pride myself on trying to do that. But I guess my point is these people who put these tariffs in place, I have to believe that they are prepared for that,
Hmm.
if that makes sense.
Sure.
Now here's the question. And again, with tariffs in place, will Nintendo be willing? Because again, we're all speculating this 450 price stays in place. What happens if that switch
No, no,
goes?
I'm not. I'm not speculating. I'm
No, no,
expecting it to go up.
no, no. That I'm getting to that. I'm saying we're all talking about a 450 price. How is Nintendo going to handle and how these tariffs and not eat that cost and pass that cost on to consumers? Because with that, again, with that tariff, are you willing to pay 499? Are you willing to pay 550? Because Nintendo still has to make a profit. They're not
Hmm.
doing this out of charity. So, what's the price point for a Switch 2 that makes people say, I'm not buying that shit? Like for you,
Uh,
what is your price point? What do you,
I
if
mean,
it
my
goes
my price point is probably 450. So when it goes up as I expect it will, I
475?
probably am not. Nah, 450. I think I will probably not get this day one, which I was surprised by. I thought I would definitely be a day one person for this. Like Dune Spice, I'm a Nintendo fanboy. I love Nintendo. I got all their stuff, but this one, a couple reasons. One, it definitely helps me focus my budget as I try to cut down on my nerd stuff and what's in my house. I can also cut back on that. Like I'll get one eventually. I don't need a day one because again, I've only seen Mario Kart World.
That's my question. If they had released a more robust lineup, would that 450 have been easier to swallow? And these tariffs been easier to swallow if there had been 10 games or 5 games that are Nintendo exclusive first party. If they had released and said, we have a Resident Evil only Nintendo Switch game, if we have a Mario Odyssey game, if we have Dune Spice again, I got to put that one up there. Uh, Dune Spice says at 25% that would bring 450 up to 562. I'm not here to dispute the math. I'm just saying I would like to know what that price would be. And if you had seen better games from Nintendo, would that make that price point easier to swallow at 475?
I mean, maybe. I mean, that's a
490.
hypothetical. Sure, maybe. Who knows? I don't know. I don't
I,
know what
I
the games are.
I guess that's what I'm saying. Like, what would have made you say, okay, 500, okay, I'm in still?
I don't. 500 would have been a big jump because as much as I like Nintendo, I like the fact that they do things differently. Because if you're costing $500 now, you're in the territory of a PlayStation 5. I think
Hmm.
the big thing, the juicy thing about Nintendo is they can kind of skirt that line. They're always cheaper because they're not competing with that. But once you get on that same level, it's whatever. So
That's
I don't think that was ever going to be their goal to be the same price as a PlayStation 5.
and see that's why I think that's how I'm coming at this. Nintendo was able to do Nintendo things because they were always cheaper. But now if you're at the 450 price point for $50 more, why not buy a PS5? That's where I'm at.
Hmm.
Because for 450, I can get just a regular Switch and buy more games.
Well, true, true, but the games do look. I mean, it's tricky, man, because the games do look better on Switch. They look markedly better
They
on a
do.
Switch 2 compared to a Switch. It's not just a slight jump up. They look a lot better. They seem to run better, even on the bit rate compressed things that I was watching on YouTube. This runs better, looks better, has HDR, so it has all the bells and whistles.
But here's the thing, and again, this is what I'm bringing up and why I say in a perfect world, if you're able to go out and buy a 450 Switch 2 because it's on the shelf, you're able to trade in your Switch, cool. But you brought up a very good point. How much inventory does Nintendo have built up to avoid scalpers? And at a
Mhm.
higher price point, how much is that console going to cost if it sells out? And then you have to go to the secondary market to buy. And the only thing that is brand new is a handful of games. Does
Sure.
Nintendo have that kind of cachet that makes people say, I have to have it? Now, here's the thing, and I'm not saying they don't, because we both know those Nintendo classics sold out. I know because the first one I bought, I resold.
Hmm. Yeah,
So I'm
I,
not
I
saying,
mean, I think Nintendo's in the best market to be able to do that. Of any company that can be like, you're going to pay a crazy price because it's Nintendo, it's them.
mhm.
It might not make them popular in the community, but they'll get over it. Because I think that the problem for me is it's all up front the first 2 3 months. I think a year down the line when the games are out there, because I believe the games are there, they just haven't shown them yet. I think once I see them, oh, now I can get it. But the
Mhm.
idea of a promise, I don't need a promise. I need like reality. That's what I want.
Es- Especially in this uncertain times, and I think
Yeah.
that's the biggest problem that Nintendo ran into is that they had this all lined up to be one of their best days, and once again, someone threw a flaming bag of poop
Hmm.
at them on their windshield as they were driving down the road on the way to their first day at the job. This
Yeah.
job they wanted. So yeah, I am I am definitely not buying this day one. I was thinking about it for the wife because she's been playing a friend of ours Switch. Tori has a Switch, and she's been playing her Switch and really enjoyed it. And I thought about just buying something that was just for hers. And I wanted something. I wanted to ease the boys into Nintendo gaming, and I thought that
Hmm.
would be cool if they saw them playing it. I thought there was a lot of things that were cool, like the camera, the chat feature. So we bought what's called a Next Playground, and it was cool
Is
to
that the
see.
little cube thing?
Yeah. So
Okay.
I thought that was cool seeing those features. integrated into the Switch too. Um, but yeah, I'm. This is these tariffs have thrown everything into chaos. For those of us who collect action figures, there are already Kickstarters who have canceled. So like, there's a company that was doing like Rocketeer. Was it Rocketeer? I know they were doing the Mage, the Tick. I think the Rocketeer, but they were doing action figures, and they've already canceled their Kickstarter. They've already said we can't afford it at the price point that they were going to provide these figures, and you're going to see a lot more. I'm interested to see what Hasbro does.
Hmm.
Mythic Legions is right now. If you go to their website, Mythic Legions is selling a. Hold on. Mythic Legions is selling a $500 dragon. It's the final week to order this dragon, Beathir. And I'll put it in the chat for people to see it. Um, it's the price of a Switch.
Hmm.
Two. All these different add-ons. People are freaking out because the dragon itself is already 550. What will the final price be when it actually comes out? Um, GTA 6, is it 6?
Hmm.
It's supposed to come out later this year. What is that
Hmm.
price going to look like?
Yeah. I mean, even before tariff, they were talking about $100. So,
Yep.
and here's the thing, because and chat, let me know. I feel like all the studios that have worked, well, actually, it doesn't even matter where the studio made it, but it will be made in house in America. So they're not really having to bump up their game price to deal with tariffs. So in a way, this almost kind of helps them if other people who are making games outside of the country bringing them in here, those prices get raised up. $100 doesn't seem as bad now if games are already going up to 80, 90 before when they were 60, 70.
Now, Kay already brought up that the COVID allowed companies to jack up prices. And here's the thing, and I'm not saying that companies are evil, but we all know everybody's out here trying to make a buck.
Hmm.
Let's not be naive and think that no company is going to say and use this as an excuse to raise their price just to make some more money.
Sure.
Um, and that's something we have to contend with. Um, so it's going to be interesting going forward. We've been talking for about an hour. This
And
is
my
two.
internet's crapping out.
Yeah, this is 2 weeks in a row. What got you through the week?
Two weirdly unique things that have been around forever. I just didn't really pay attention to them. Well, not forever. One of them, we talked about it before. We did a trailer reaction. The Studio on Apple. I finally started watching that. I'm really loving that show. That is hilarious. I won't spoil anything, but the premise of what the movie that Seth Rogen is trying to get made is so wild. It's great.
Mhm.
And then, so a long time ago, I don't know, a few years ago, I bought an LG TV.
Yep.
Top of the line LG at the time. It's probably 3 or 4 years old now, but it was a top of the line C model LG TV. And I'm sure other TV manufacturers have their own version of channels. Like I'm sure Samsung has Samsung channels, whatever. LG has this thing called LG channels, which are
Mhm.
streamed online channels. There's one channel on there that is 24/7 people making food,
Mhm.
specifically like Asian food. I'm
Yeah.
hooked on it now. I am watching that all the time. I think it's called Food Kingdom, might be the name of the channel, but it's
Okay.
just random Asian dishes being made. I mean, for people who are in the ASMR, it'll get you there. But people who just like the food porn stuff, it's
Hmm.
good stuff. So the studio and Food Kingdom, the LG channel, that's what
Okay.
got me through the week.
Cool. 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 Cool.
Yeah,
Cool. Um, for me, work, of course, is outrageous.
sure.
Um, so what happens when you work two jobs? I actually have both days off this weekend.
Look at you.
Yeah, that ain't gonna last. Um, um, so, Kate, thank you for bringing that up because um, Val Kilmer passed this week,
Hmm.
which was real sad. Val Kilmer's in a lot of the stuff that I. Um, sorry, I'm trying to add stuff to my. As I thought about deleting Max and canceling the subscription, they started adding stuff that's like, oh, I'm interested. Okay, you got me. Um, Val Kilmer passed, so I've been rewatching Val Kilmer stuff, and I rewatched Heat um, on the night that he passed,
Hmm.
and I just was once again amazed by this movie, but then caught little things that I did not realize that I missed in the beginning, and so that and replaying Star Wars Outlaws, um, that has been. It isn't. I don't. I don't want to diminish the game. Star Wars Outlaws is not amazing. It's good. It's just a perfectly fine game. It's good in certain areas. A lot of some of the stuttering in the game, like Star Wars Outlaws, would be great if it had a lot of the game mechanics and the way the cutscenes move, like a Horizon Zero,
Hmm.
or like if it had been a first party. And I think Ubisoft struggles at some of that. Like they're trying to make that seamless transition that Santa Monica Studios does, that Naughty Dog does, Gorilla, they like their third person into the cutscenes and that seamless transition. They haven't figured that out yet because there's still
Hmm.
a lot of like you'll move to a cutscene or like where a transition, and the game will kind of stutter and like freeze up, where it's like, and now you can move kind of thing, where the game is still loading. But the game is good. I do enjoy it. But yeah, rewatching, going back and Tombstone, like rewatch like him as Doc Holliday.
Hmm.
Just how Val Kilmer just oozed, you know. And then go back and watch some of Kay brought up a lot of his Real Genius, Top Secret, The Island of Dr. Moreau. Um, I say go back and watch a movie that he did called Spartan. Um, the Lazarus is it Lazarus Sea? I'm trying to remember. Vincent D'Onofrio plays an amazing role in that one. Um, Willow, Mad Mardigan. I really loved his characters and the way he infused his like that jolly kind of like aloofness. Like to me, Val Kilmer is what Brad Pitt was going to be. Like that Val Kilmer was on that trajectory. How Brad Pitt started as this attractive young blonde dude who morphed into these roles and then just has become like now an elder statesman as an actor. If you go and watch the trailer for F1, Joseph Kosinski's new movie about Formula One racing, Brad Pitt is now that guy,
Hmm.
that elder guy, and that's what Val Kilmer was transitioning to. That this young Hollywood heartthrob, the throat cancer took him down, so we missed that trajectory. But yeah, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, amazing. One of the best, like him and Robert Downey, amazing. That's the movie that made me believe Robert Downey Jr. could do anything. Yeah, go watch, everybody. Go. Thank you, Kay. Great recommendation.
Cool.
So with that being said, I don't know. I don't know what next week's going to look like. Uh,
We may be live. We may not be live. Who knows?
maybe. I mean, it depends. Hey, the way Restream is acting up.
Yeah.
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 You know what's funny? I think this is the first time on our streams that your computer was messing up. It used to always be me. Remember?
Hmm. Yeah.
This is the first time.
Indeed.
First time for anything, for
Yeah.
everything. So, um, he was Elvis in True Romance. I got to go back and watch it. I don't remember. Like True Romance has everybody in it. Also, rest in peace, Tom Sizemore. Like I forget how good Tom Sizemore was before the drugs. Um, Sizemore was in that movie too, True Romance.
Great. Now we're just reminiscing, folks. That's it for us.
am.
We'll be back next week somehow, maybe, hopefully,
Yeah.
around 9:30 if we are.
Yep.
Until then, peace.
Peace.